Hey friends, look at this big, these willow trees are terrible. They don't die though, they just break and grow and break and grow. Look at the mess here. I need to get back in here with my truck, I reckon, and start dealing with a lot of this. It's bothering me. This yard, this path wasn't here when we moved in. I've been mowing it. This yard was a train wreck when we got this place. And I'll flip you around. Hey friends. Me being the kind of feller I am, I like to put these things into practice as much as possible. Gives me good energy, especially being a big fella. You know, being a big fella, you got to keep active, you got to keep your weight in check. And I'm just going to put you guys this way because the sun is, well, look, it's back there and it's really bright. I'm going to flip you guys around. Excuse me. Yeah, just wandering in the yard. I mow this path every second or third time I mow. I go around here with the big mower. We'll pull the mower out soon because it's spring, and I'll show you guys my mowing rig. Super proud of that mowing rig because she's the equivalent of a ported 95cc chainsaw. So yeah, checking for yote activity. Now that the snow's gone, I can't follow the prints, so big group of yotes were here this winter. Coyotes, we call them yotes here. They hover around here. I'll show you guys this if you guys are interested. I'm sure a lot of you guys like this kind of stuff. This is a fox den. Generations of foxes have been on this property. There's a hole right there. There's about 40 holes. I'll show you guys where they've been digging. And we like them. They don't cause any trouble. We don't have any livestock or anything, so I can understand if you got chickens. Check that out. Yeah, they've been digging. And I like the foxes here because they get rid of the mice. And this yard, when we moved in, was full of mice. Look at them go. Anyhow, it's pupping season, and they're gonna raise some pups. So if I can get them on film, I will do that. Now I'm just gonna take a quick walk. Soon it'll be tick season. Oh. Something big got eaten here. I know, don't touch that tin man. Full of germs. That's an interesting bone. Yeah, predators, friends. They're, and that's probably, I wonder what that would be. Small deer, maybe? Yeah, who knows? They eat everything, every last inch. Very efficient. But yeah, this winter, I was walking back here, like here. We got big yotes on this property. Last winter, I was walking back here, and you guys could see all the game trails. Had a pack of 3 yotes bedding down on the property. Now, I don't mind the wildlife being here, I really don't. And whatever, we all got to cohabitate on this earth. There's so many people and so many, you know, there's so few animals, or so few places for the animals to go. We got to share, and that's just what I believe. Again, this is where the yotes sleep at night. I don't see any fresh scat, so. But yeah, friends, I was literally walking back here, and 15 feet away, and they were right there, the yotes, and they were actually stalking this way towards me this winter, and I don't like that. We got big old yotes here. They breed with the wolves, is what they tell me, and so most of the coyotes left here are coy wolf hybrids. See right here, this is a happy spot for them. Yeah, Coy Wolf hybrids, and they get quite large here. Big enough to hurt me, that's for sure, and when there's 3 of them. So they're fine, they don't bother anybody. You're as scared of them as they are of you, but you gotta be mindful in the bush. Anyhow, this is the creek. It's natural drainage ditch. I dug all this out a couple of years ago with skid steer. My buddy lent me his track skid steer, and I dug all that out. Well, I think we don't got any yotes. I'll put together. Okay, for those of you that have made it, you know, I lived in the city for a long time, and I gotta say, living in the country for this guy with no people around, peace, like I'm just wandering around in my yard, social distancing, whatever you want to call it, right? Nothing's really changed for us here. And I don't know what it is, but living out here just does something for me. It's quiet, it's peaceful. You get your own little world to just wander around in. And you can run chainsaws at night. I'll see you guys at the bench. Later. Hey everybody, how's it going? Another day in the power saw shop. Today we're going to do something that we've never done on this channel. You guys asked me about it a lot. We're doing a vac test on the Super Pro 70. I lost spark on the saw, the mounts rattled loose, just having a few little issues with this saw, which is fine. That happens with vintage power saws. But I thought, well, I got the saw apart, let's do a vac test on it. A vac test tests your seals, your gaskets for any leaks. You're checking the block of the engine. Okay, so you want to do that anytime you take a saw down. If you're not sure, I'm going to be honest, friends, a lot of times when I rebuild a saw, I don't vac or pressure test it. I probably should, but they run good 99% of the time. That other 1%, maybe you got a leak. But generally, I'll use a vac test on a saw that has an air leak, and I'm trying to confirm that quickly, especially if the saw has an impulse line. If it has an impulse line, it's usually pretty quick to do a vac test. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to bring you guys in close to my messy bench, and I'll show you guys how to rig up a quick and easy vac test, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so what we have here is our Super Pro 70 engine. Okay, it's taken down basically to the bare block. Now, if you guys look right here, okay, I made a block off plate out of a piece of 1/8 inch steel. Okay, this is hard steel. What you want to do is take your gasket. In this case, you have to get creative doing these things. You can buy block off plates from the dealer if you're so inclined, but okay, you want to drill 2 holes in it. Okay, here and here. Now, basically, what I did on this side, this is the intake side, I took a piece of inner tube, okay, piece of rubber. You can use gasket material. I prefer to use rubber because I find it seals up really good. Okay, cut a piece of rubber that fills the gap in between. Okay, shove it in there so that, I mean, you can make a full rubber gasket, but what I find is that if you cut little holes and make a proper gasket, what ends up happening is the gasket will swell when you torque it down. Okay, so you cut 2 strips. See, and I shoved this inner tube in there. And then put the plate across and torque it down. Now, on the other side, I have the exhaust. I took another piece, cut it, and shoved it in between the 2 exhaust bolts. Okay, sometimes you have to double it up. Get creative. You want to seal off the intake and the exhaust port. Now, this saw has a decomp. Now, I find typically you may get a little bit of leakage on the decomp. If you're having problems, you're going to have to pull the decomp out and plug the decomp. This one seems to be not too bad, so we left it as it was. Now, I have a piece of fuel line here attached to the There, you fix this up here. Attached to the impulse line. I heated it up and slid it over there so that it's good and tight. Again, I want to make sure that I don't have any leaks. Now, I'll just grab my vac pump here. This is a vac pump. This is just an inexpensive one that you can buy in an auto parts store. I have a piece of wire over here to really make sure that it's sealed up. Again, friends, we ain't fancy here. You know, you don't have to have fancy tools to work on a power saw. So basically, when you squeeze this, okay, it puts vacuum on the engine. Now look, the decomp is closed and it's leaking. So we got to make sure that the decomp isn't leaking. Okay. Now, what I usually do, bear with me here, I'll pump it slowly so that it stays focused. I'm creating a vacuum in the crankcase. Okay, now you guys see that? See how it's holding vacuum? That's 10 pounds of vacuum. Okay, now you want to watch it, and I'm going to bring you guys in close. It may drop ever so slightly, just a little bit at a time. That's fine. Some will hold pressure overnight, okay? But see how that's not dropping? That tells me I do not have an air leak in this engine. Now, you can leave it for a while if you want. You can leave it for 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, whatever you want to do. But basically, you just want to ensure that you don't have a vacuum leak in the engine. Okay? Now you see this one's holding steady. I left it on 10 pounds of vacuum. It's just a little bit over 10 pounds for, I don't know, it was like 5 minutes and it held. Okay? So you don't want to go like this and just keep pumping it. There is a pressure amount that the seals will not hold. Okay, now I've never damaged seals from overdoing it, but you know, 5 to 7 pounds I think is what spec is. I'll usually do about, or 7 to 10 pounds rather, I'll usually do about 10 pounds, okay? And again, you can see I hit the Schrader valve. All you're doing is sucking the air out of the engine. Okay, so if you have a leak, here, I'm just going to hit the Schrader valve. It'll go really fast, or sometimes it's like very, very subtle, okay? Now, the other thing you can do is apply pressure. Typically, pressure will, if you pressurize the crankcase, that'll push the seal out. Now, again, I'm just showing you guys, these are brand new seals in this engine, so I'm not concerned about that, but because remember, when the piston's going down, you're pressurizing the bottom end. When it's coming up, you're creating a vacuum in the bottom end, right? So it's a thing that you want to be aware of. A lot of you guys have asked me this. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you guys typically where you'll get your leaks, okay? So one major source of a leak, and I've experienced it on this saw, is the intake, okay? These gaskets tend to leak on these McCullochs, and you want to be aware of that, okay? Make sure your gaskets are in good shape and or brand new. I like brand new gaskets when I'm assembling a saw, okay? You can have exhaust leaks. That's typically not a problem. Now, a good place to look for leaks, and you can see it's still holding strong, okay? See that? Now that I've moved it, look, see how I'm playing with it? It dropped a little bit. That tells you that this leaks a little bit. Now, under vacuum, that's going to be pretty typical. So if you hold it with your hand, and again, same thing, it's not dropping. Just make sure, okay? But a lot of times that's where your leak's going to be, because it actually pulls the compression release down, Okay. Here, I'm going to grab the cutaway. Okay, remember, when your piston's going up, it's drawing vacuum into the bottom end, right? That's why your carb sucks in and it sucks fuel through the carburetor jets. Okay, so when it's going up, it's pulling on the crank seals, okay, right here. So your seal, if it's weak, it could pull in, okay? Now when the piston goes up, and back down, it's the minute the intake closes, right? It's going to create pressure in the bottom end and it pushes the seal out, okay? 9 out of 10 times when you got a major air leak, it is in that crank seal. And it's usually, but not always, it's usually on the clutch side. Okay, and that's why we've talked about, I'm just going to hang this back up. That's why we've talked about time and time again, over-tightening chains and dull chains. When you get that seal hot behind the clutch, when you get that seal hot, it can melt and then it leaks. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys a little vac test on film. Now, this one holds vacuum. Basically, I just thought, well, I got the saw apart, I'll show you guys. This saw has some, it had a stumbly idle in that. It turned out to be an ignition problem, but, so, say you think you have an air leak. Okay, I'm going to bring you guys back here. Okay guys, so you think you have an air leak in your power saw, okay? It could be any saw. I'll grab a random saw off the shelf, okay? So I got this power saw here and I think she's got an air leak. You see builders do this and this. Well, what ends up happening when you do that, if you have an air leak, a lot of times the saw will stall, okay? That's why guys are doing that. I get asked that a lot. Okay, so maybe the saw is stalling. How do you know where your leak is? Well, what you do is, I use carb cleaner or brake cleaner. It won't hurt the saw, just let the saw idle. I will spray around the clutch. If you spray around the clutch and the saw goes, well, bang, and dies, you know you got a PTO side leak. Same thing, I will spray into the flywheel side. Again, often it's hard to get it in there. I'll spray around the base of the cylinder. Okay, here. I think next time I go cutting, this thing's coming with me. Okay, I will spray around the base of the cylinder. Now, carb leaks are harder to diagnose because if you spray around the carb 9 out of 10 times, the carb is going to suck in whatever you're spraying just naturally through the air filter and it's going to die. So again guys, that is not always a sign of an air leak just because you sprayed around the carb. Okay, I'm going to throw this back. Okay, so if you spray your clutch side, because that's usually where the leak is, but not always. Don't always assume it's going to be your clutch side. And it dies, you know you need a seal. The next saw I do seals on, I'd like to do a detailed seal removal and install video. I've done it a few times back in early on in the channel, but I think it's always something that we can refresh just because it's good knowledge to have, and that is common. You know, your rotten fuel lines, crank seals, stuff like that is very common in old saws. In a newer saw, if you got an air leak at the crankshaft, at the crank seal, you usually need bearings, in my experience. Not always, but most of the newer saws, if the crank seal's gone, it's usually the bearing shot too behind it. So, again, that's just the way it goes, and then you're splitting the saw. Okay, folks, well, that was that's a vac test. You can buy a vac pump. The Mighty Vac is a good one. I'm actually going to order a Mighty Vac. I had a good vac pump, which ended up dying on me. I grabbed this one day just quickly, because nobody sells Mighty Vacs where I live, but I grabbed this one quickly. It's worked, but I'd like another good one, because it is a good tool to have. Now, one more thing. When you're applying pressure in your pressure vac pump, when you're applying pressure, it's just like checking for leak in a tire. Spray soapy water around the seals. If they start bubbling, there's your air leak. Around the base of the cylinder, same thing. Okay, guys? So there you go. That's vac test in a nutshell. Use your imagination and rig up plates. And again, rubber inner tubes seem to work the best for me. They don't leak. You just reef it down and you got no problems. And, you know, and a piece of fuel line to the impulse. Now, if you don't have an impulse line, you're going to have to make an adapter to go through the spark plug hole. So, again, you're going to have to get creative, beg, borrow, or order one, you know, and go from there. Anyhow, guys, just a little quickie on vac and pressure tests. Thanks for watching. Take her easy.